Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
The information contained within this podcast does not consider your personal circumstances and is of a general nature only. You should not act on it without first obtaining professional financial advice specific to your circumstances.
Paul Atherton is an ex-Wall Street advisor on a mission to help young people win back their financial power, wealth, and security. He does this by helping them understand the hidden world of finance, risk, and investments, helps them figure out how it impacts them, and to seize the opportunities to make it work to their advantage. This is Paul Street Journal. I'm here today with Paul Atherton. How are you today?
Yeah, really good, Tim.
It's good to hear. We've talked previously about different ways of reducing debt, getting debt-free. I have family members who have definitely looked into a few different options, and you've mentioned paying off credit cards one by one, or different forms of debt one by one. I'm interested to know what the benefit of debt consolidation might be by comparison.
Yeah, so I think this should be taken into account irrespective of if you're going down the path of, debt repayment, and the way you're going to do it. So we did mention in one episode where we isolated one piece of debt at a time. We paid it off based on different processes. But whether you do that or not, it's really worth your time to, I think, what I call restructure your debt and lower interest rates. So lower it as low as you possibly can, because the interest rates ultimately is what's killing you. Credit card companies and lenders are not in it for charity. They're in it to get their money, and certainly they do get it. So, and let's not make it out of yourself, Tim, your family, or any of our listeners. So let's try and think about ways of lowering debt. And often I find that one of the biggest impacts I can have on an individual when I talk to them is simply by consolidating their debt. And what this means, consolidating debt, means that you need to find a lender that will take all of your outstanding debt, or maybe some, or a big portion of it, and restructure it into their debt. So it becomes their debt. The new lender essentially owns that debt, and hopefully, otherwise you wouldn't do it, but it's on a lower rate. This tends to happen for mortgages. Mortgage is the classic example. So if you have a mortgage, and let's say it has a lot of equity in there. Let's say, just for argument's sake, you own 50% of a $400,000 house. Okay, there's a lot of equity. Your loan to value is at 50%. You have inbuilt equity in that. Now, let's also then say that you have, $20,000 worth of credit card, personal loans, card debt. Now, that's silly because your mortgage debt's going to have a much lower rate of interest, much lower. Why? Because it's a mortgage. It's secured on a house. Your house doesn't tend to, get up and go away. Whereas a credit card, you can spend it on anything, and it's very difficult to get the money back. But so fully collateralized on a house means lower interest rates, and I guess in Australia at the moment, anywhere in the high 3s to low 4s. Credit card debt, 22, 29%. Oh my God, that's huge. Now imagine if you just removed that and placed it under your house. Right. So now your loan is now from $200,000 to $210,000. So let's say you had an outstanding one credit card debt for $10,000, and all of a sudden that 22% is lowered to, I'm just going to use 4% as an example. Now that's a massive difference. But what's more, because it's restructured from an interest rate perspective, but now it's paid over 30 years or whatever the mortgage is. So you'll find that the rate of payments that you've been making on the $10,000 debt almost goes away. Now, there's a bit of a sting in the tail to this, because it will feel like it's gone. Like, it will feel like your loan is gone. It will feel like the outstanding debt is gone. It will 100% feel that. But it hasn't. Like, it's not gone. No. So I've said before, debt's like the Terminator. It won't stop. It just never goes until you pay it off. So it's restructured, but it hasn't gone. So it's very important to keep that in mind so that you maintain the discipline to pay off your outstanding debt. And, there are many ways of doing that. Maybe you just pay those extra payments into your mortgage and get on top of that. But anybody who has a 50% mortgage should feel relatively comfortable. So that's one way, restructuring that way. Another, which you may have seen on television and advertised a lot, is a credit card transfer. Now, just FYI, this can be useful. I virtually never recommend it, but it can be incredibly useful. Well, why? Because you can transfer your debt, and let's say it has the capacity to take on the full credit card. You have credit card one, that has, and again, use the same example, 10,000. Imagine if you could move that all over to another credit card and have 0% interest. Now, there are transfer fees, so usually there's a couple of percent transfers, so you already pay something up front, and sometimes there are other various rules, but let's say there's only a few percent, so that's worth the ride. Right, I'll pay a few percent up front, and that means I could have it for maybe somewhere between 6 to 18 months, let's say 12 months of interest free. Now, credit card companies are not doing this because they're really, trying to do a community service. They're in it to make money. So why would they do that? Why would they offer 0% when, the prevailing rate's 20%? Well, they do it because they know the person who's got themselves into this trouble tends to stay in that trouble, and that's why I don't recommend it. So I highly recommend people get other parts of their life well in order before they even do this. But if you do it, you transfer it. Here are some of the other things to watch out for. Every time you spend money, that automatically goes to the highest rate of that credit card, and it's often even higher than the card that you transferred it from. So maybe you transfer from a 20% credit card to now it will be at 25%. And every time you pay that, you spend on that card, that's the first that needs to be paid immediately, and that interest is charged immediately. And you can see how that could automatically get you in a lot of trouble. And people have found that they double their debt and end up with double the size of the original debt with a higher interest rate. And that's exactly what they want to do. That's the exact position the credit card company wants you to do. So that's not the happy path. The happy path is you transfer everything across. You either cut up the card, you put it in the freezer, right, out of your reach, and you do everything you can to pay it off over that period of time, that 12-month period of time. So that's why generally I don't recommend transfer to zero interest cards, but they can be useful. I can't lie.
If you could just humor me for a second.
Sure.
How exactly does the money get transferred? Does debt company one that owns your debt get money paid to them?
Yeah, they usually
from debt company two. Okay.
Yeah. It's usually a payment.
Okay.
Yeah, so they transfer the money across. That's how it's cancelled.
And the fees obviously cover the fact that it's a lost profit for debt company one. Okay.
Well, they work out that there used to be fees. There used to be no fees, zero fees. I'm sure you could find them.
Okay.
But yeah, that's how they work it. They don't just they transfer money, and the debt is now in your name in a different card. Now the third way to restructure your debt and lower your interest payments, quite surprisingly to a lot of people, is to call up your lenders and ask. That's silly, right? You go, oh, why didn't I think of that? Oh, surely they wouldn't do it. But guess what? They do it. And I think what people need to do is they need to be a bit armed with a script and go through it. And I know there are credit helping agencies that help people do this. And I know that there are some that actually will walk people and do it for them on their behalf. So they're experts. They don't feel embarrassed about their debt. They just do it on their behalf. They're a professional and they go through the script. So let me give you a little bit of a script. So you call up your credit card company. Now, first, before you do it, do a bit of research, go to Google, check out what the prevailing rates are. And if you find out that you can get a 10% credit card and you're paying 25%, now you know what the rate is. Yeah. So Google can be your friend there. Now call up the institution and say exactly that. Get somebody on the line and say, listen, my current rate's too high. It's having significant negative impact on me financially. And I would like it lowered to the card rate that you've just researched. If they say yes, you're done, right? So you've transferred and so. But if they say no, well, first of all, they'll probably say, I'm not the right department. You say, fine, send me to the right department and get ready to repeat yourself. But when you find the right area, then say the same script. My interest rate's too high. I want it to a better rate. Competitors are placed at this price. That's what I would like it lowered to. If they say no, ask for a supervisor. And sometimes they're not empowered to. Sometimes that's part of the process. But usually when you ask for a supervisor by mandate, by their own job description, they have to send you to a supervisor. And then you say the same line, right? My current rate is too high. It's having significant negative impact on me financially, and I would like this lowered to X. And you'll be surprised how often this works. Very surprised. The success rate is far more than the failure rate. And of course, why not? They want your business, and you can just get up and leave. So challenge it. And if you went down and lowered all of your interest rates by just the phone call, that's a very, very profitable phone call you just made. And if you don't feel comfortable doing it, get somebody else. Nobody can do it on your behalf unless they're empowered to do so. You can't get somebody because they want to speak to you specifically. But there are some agencies that will be able to do that. But yeah, you should go for it.
Excellent. Those are all viable options, I assume. So
yeah, brilliant.
Thank you
Definitely
for that.
Cheers. Thanks, Tim.
Paul Street Journal.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to AuscastNetwork.com for details.